What's good, YouTube? It's me, Squiddy, back in another Squiddy. Bonfire! This brand new Rota for Pyro Monsters is retailing at upwards of $130 USD. Is this worth it? Now, the obvious answer is no, but the real answer is probably both yes and no. We're gonna discuss why. Now, first of all, let's start a bit by talking about the card itself. What does this card do? Well, it's a normal spell card that allows you to add a level 4 or lower Pyro monster directly from your deck to your hand. Why is this good? Everyone online has been kind of ranting and raving about this card being not that good, but the price tag is just absolutely crazy for a card that doesn't really do anything besides search your deck for a monster. Well, the truth of the matter is this card actually has hidden effects concealed within it because of the existence of powerful Pyro monsters. In Phantom Nightmare, we are getting some new Snake Eyes support, including Snake Eyes Populace, which is one of the cards that actually breaks the entire Snake Eye engine. This card says if it's added to your hand, except by drawing it, you can reveal it to special summon him, and then when he's special summoned, you can actually add any Snake Eyes spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, meaning a lot like how Black Witch functions, you can now add the original Sinful Spoils directly to your hand, and on top of all of that, you get a level 1 extender who places himself or any other fire monster back in your spell and trap zones as a continuous spell when you sent to the graveyard, which means two things. Well, number one, you can search for the original Sinful Spoils, then you can link off this monster into a link Rebo and then scale it back as a continuous spell. Now you have something free to send off of the original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, which you added to your hand off of Populace. So it in itself allows you to basically combo off into whatever level 1 fire engine you want, all thanks to Bonfire, and this did not require any of your normal summons yet in the combo. Now, to make it even better, you can obviously add Snake Eyes Ash, which is also a Pyro monster that allows you, when summoned, to in turn add Snake Eyes Populace. And the best thing about Ash is that actually you can tribute itself and another face-up card you control to summon out another Snake Eyes monster, oftentimes more than not Snake Eyes Flamberg Dragon, who when sent to the graveyard, allows you to then resurrect 2 more level 1 fire monsters from your graveyard, meaning you have an endless supply of monster bodies to just link climb. And you guys know how powerful the fire links that we have already. We have cards like Sunlight Wolf, we have Decode Talk or Heat Soul to allow you to draw a card, and we are getting Promethean Princess in the upcoming Phantom Nightmare as well to push the fire types even more. So Bonfire is kind of like the root in this, the little seedling that grows and allows you to do this entire combo. It does a couple of things for you in the deck. It makes your consistency a lot better because you're going to be able to Rota for anything you want. It also acts, in addition to a searcher, acts as a free extender, right? Because you can search Populace itself. Let's say we go normal summon in Ash, it gets Ash Blossomed or Veilered. Well, if we have Bonfire in our hand, we can now activate that to add the same Populace that we would have searched off of the Snake Eyes Ash to our hand, reveal it, special summon it, and do the exact same entire combo we would have done if the Snake Eyes Ash had not been Veilered, right? We basically traded our Bonfire with their Veiler. And the two things I've seen the most on social media is the fact that Bonfire has been compared to both Reinforcement of the Army and Pot of Prosperity. Well, guys, you cannot compare them one-to-one because they're completely different cards. Pot of Prosperity has a steep cost where you have to banish from your extra deck to add something, and then you're also cut off from drawing for the rest of the turn, meaning you're not going to be able to take advantage of cards like Wanted, who has a graveyard effect to banish itself, return a Sinful Spoils for a trap card to your deck, and then draw a card. You're not going to be able to use cards like Decode Talk or Heat Soul or Talons to draw, and you're also banishing important resources from your extra deck, which is very valuable in a deck like Fire King, where you're going to play a lot of one-ofs because you have such a wide toolbox of different cards that mesh very well with the deck. So banishing 3 to 6 cards can often be very devastating, especially if you're in the grind game. And then Reinforcing the Army adds warrior monsters, but there are no warrior monsters that are extenders like Populace, right? Like, sure, you have the Infernoble stuff that can special summon itself, but do you have anything that can literally start your entire engine all by itself and revealing it without using your normal summon? Nope, there's not really anything in the game. That's why Bonfire is so good. It's a searcher, it increases consistency, and on top of everything, it's an extender. So it's good at all aspects of the game. It's good at the start of the game as a starter, it's good in the median of the game where you're grinding, and it's good at the end of the game where you're trying to OTK. Now this brings me to my next point. Whether you should pick up Bonfire or not depends on how competitive of a player you are. Now, we all know we're entering a new format that's very close to Tier 0, if the OCG is any indication, okay? It's not a flat-out Tier 0 deck like how Tier Elements were super oppressive, but instead, some other decks will be able to compete, but I think Fire Kings will be highly dominant alongside Rescue Ace because they can take advantage of Populace and the new Snake Eyes support as well as Promethean Princess. which means that you're going to have to invest in bonfires to play the best deck if you actually enjoy winning at a high level. For example, at like a regionals, maybe a YCS, you definitely have to have bonfires if you want your best chances of winning. But that comes with another steep cost. You're not just paying over $300 for 3 bonfires, but you also have to get the rest of the cards. Do you already own staples and hand traps? If so, that's a good sign. It means that you already have cards that you can kind of pair with and don't have to sink more money into them. But you also have to pick up other cards. You have to pick up SV Little Knight if you don't have that already. You know, cards like Typhon, the Fire King stuff. The rest of the simple spoil stuff, including Wanted and Dark Witch, which are also very expensive, right? So you're going to be looking to drop over $1,000 for a deck if you don't have anything. So that's something you might want to consider. But if you're already been like a competitive player and you already have like the Wanted engine for your other decks and you're really only missing the Bonfire plus whatever else is coming out in Phantom Nightmare, including the Princess as well as the Populace, then there's better reason for you guys to actually pick that up because you're already playing competitive. You don't have to sink that much more money into it. Might as well pick it up and play at the top-notch ability that you can. And if you're a really good player, you can obviously start winning tournaments, whether that's locals or regionals, even YCSs, and slowly accumulate prizing where you can kind of make back the money that you spent into Yu-Gi-Oh, which includes the money you've spent on bonfires. Like, hey, if I was going to play Yu-Gi-Oh once or twice a week anyways, and I'm winning prizes thanks to the bonfires that I spent money on, it means I'm accumulating the cost of the cards that I spent, right? I'm having fun doing it because I would have played Yu-Gi-Oh anyways. I would have spent the time, but now I can guarantee that I have a better chance of winning, and I'm winning prizes along the way, which recuperates my cost. So that's just another thing to consider. If you're like me, where you don't really play locals, but you kind of play every now and then for regionals or bigger events like YCSs, you could potentially either choose to borrow them, or you could just buy them out for the weekend, play with them, and then sell them back on Sunday, either to the vendors at a sharp decline in cost, or you can go online on Facebook and sell them for 85% TCG player, which means that you're going to make a lot more money back, and you're really only spending a little bit of money to play in the tournament, which I think is perfectly fine. Now, the next point is price. Price-wise, I think Bonfire will actually stick very close to $100. Why? Because it's in a side set that's not very good. Like, the rest of the cards are not very, very good. There's maybe 3 chase cards in the set. You have Thrust, you have Bonfire, and then you have the Faction rollback for Labyrinth. And not a lot of people will be buying this set because when people buy product, they like to have the ability to open awesome cards that are worth money, or cards like Starlights or QCRs where they can have a chance at ripping something good. Well, in this set, you can only get those 3 cards basically, and there's not really any value in buying a box unless you're guaranteed to get a Bonfire, which you're not guaranteed to get. And knowing North America, Konami, they'll probably short print this card anyway, so it's not guaranteed to have it. So a lot of people will actually be just buying the singles, and that means the supply and demand will shoot up. The demand will be high because this card is required at 3 copies in basically all of the tier 1 fire decks. And then no one's opening the set, so it will be in chase in demand. I think it'll stick close to $100. The next point is the fact that Fire Kings and the Populace engine Sinful Spoil stuff will probably be good for at least a year, right? If you think about it, Konami typically has a 1 ban list, which kind of hurts the consistency of the deck, but not really at all, right? They're hitting things like maybe the Rescue Ace Airlifter to 2 in the OCG, or 1 in the TCG case, and it just doesn't really do a lot for the deck. They're hitting things like Cashier Unicorn to 2. It's kind of like they're acknowledging the deck is good, but they don't want to head it outright because people have just invested into the format and into the cards. So I think Fire Kings and the Snake Eye stuff being playable for at least a year. The problem with this engine in particular is it's very hard to hit something. If you want to hit something hard, you probably have to ban the original Sinful Spoils, right? There's nothing else you can really do, but I just don't see them doing that. I see them hitting consistency over the course of a couple of ban lists, maybe limiting cards like Populace or Snake Eyes Ash, but that means Bonfire is still going to be good. We're still going to be able to do the same exact combo, although at a lesser consistency, but that still means Bonfire will be played and it still will be expensive. We're not going to get a reprint at least a year because Konami's not going to reprint cards right away. Cards like the Wanted engine probably won't come out until like the next year's tin, so you got at least a whole year of playing this deck before the cards actually go down. So if you are playing very consistently, I think it's a good idea to pick them up and just play Fire Kings and just, see how it goes. Just destroy the meta with new cards. Might as well join them if you can't beat them. But that being said, it really depends on how you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! If you guys are very competitive players where you kind of want to play the best deck, then by all means spend it on Bonfire and start playing. But if you feel like you're more of a budget player, more of a player that likes to experiment with decks that are good for a long period of time, because we can just show up the locals once or twice and not be invested in the game, then definitely by all means hold back and not buy Bonfire. That $300 over $300 USD, you can use it on a lot better things. There are some rogue decks that are coming up, like the Voiceless Voice and some other stuff that you can definitely play, so having that budget will allow you to try different things that are not the tier 1 definitive deck in the form of Fire Kings, right? But that being said, what are you guys' thoughts on Bonfire? It's a little unfortunate. I think that the game is starting to be super expensive again, like it always has been. But I would like to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think this is a card that we should invest in? Do you think this is the type of card that, you know, Konami should print more of? Or should they just make this easily accessible and, you know, make these tier 1 decks a lot cheaper than they are? It looks like the 25th anniversary collection didn't really do a lot, unfortunately, but they're trending in the right direction, so I hope they keep doing that. Other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Those are my thoughts on Bonfire.